Archives podcast, episode 86. Welcome back to the Medieval Archives podcast, the podcast for medieval news, history, and entertainment. I'm your host, Gary, aka The Archivist. On this Halloween show, we're going to look at Alice Kyteler and the witchcraft trial of 1324. Alice Kyteler, known as the Witch of Kilkenny, was a wealthy and powerful merchant in the city. Over the years, she was resented for her wealth, and then rumors of her and demons and witchcraft began to spread. We'll examine Alice's life, her husband's. Yes, she had more than one. In fact, she had 4. Their deaths helped fuel the rumors of her witchcraft. We'll look at the events leading up to the trial and the outcome. In the end, we'll discover the fate of Alice Kyteler, the Witch of Kilkenny. Now, before we delve into the dark world of medieval witchcraft, I want to say thanks to a few people for supporting the show. We have Alex, Tina, Aaron, and Bob. Now, thanks for your support, whether it's through monetary donations, helping with articles, discussing medieval topics online. All help is appreciated and it keeps the show ad-free. Ads are evil. They should be burned at the stake. So visit medievalarchives.com/donate to help support the show. Now, if you have any questions or comments, or if you have a topic you'd like to hear on the show, send it over to podcast@medievalarchives.com. Or you can leave a message on our voicemail line, 720-722-1066. Now, all the show notes and the bibliography for this lesson will be at medievalarchives.com/86. So let's get into the medieval witchcraft trial of 1324. In 1324, Kilkenny, Ireland was the setting for one of the earliest witchcraft trials in the Middle Ages. Powerful merchant Alice Kyteler was charged with crimes of witchcraft, heresy, murder, sacrificing animals to a demon, and using sorcery to create potions. Now, if those charges weren't bad enough, they claimed she had sex with an incubus, a demon who appeared in various forms. Now, how did she end up in this situation? For that, let's go back to the beginning.
Perhaps you had better start from the beginning. Perhaps you had better start from the beginning.
The Kyteler family settled in the city of Kilkenny, Ireland, not long after the Norman invasion in the late 12th century. Richard Strongbow, one of the leaders of the Norman invasion, established the first castle in Kilkenny, and the famous knight Sir William Marshall issued the town charter in 1207. Alice Kyteler was the only child born to a wealthy merchant family in 1263. Now, there's little mention of her youth until her father set up a marriage with another powerful merchant, William Outlaw. Now, William Outlaw had another endearing quality. He was the brother of Roger Outlaw, a high-ranking knight hospitaller and the Lord Chancellor of Ireland. The two were married in 1280. William was 38, Alice was 18. Now, together they had a son, also named William, and a daughter named Rose. Now, her husband, William, was deeply in love with Alice, and he would do anything for her. So when she asked for her own business, William built an addition onto their house, and Alice opened an inn. The inn became popular, and the troubles for Alice started brewing. See, Alice was a beautiful woman, known for her sweetness and a cheerful smile. In hushed comments, the other women in the area accused her of manipulating their husbands to spend all their time and money at the inn. Now, around 1300, William died, the husband, not the son. As is custom of the time, Alice remarried relatively quickly, and her new husband, Adam LeBlond, was also a wealthy merchant and a moneylender. It was during this marriage the hushed comments started to grow louder. Rumors began to swirl that Alice was a witch, and she, along with her new husband, had murdered William. The rumors began to intensify. Some said Alice was having orgies in the inn while Satan looked on. They even said she was sacrificing babies to Satan. Her great wealth was also a reason for the jealousy and hatred. In 1303, the authorities raided her house to find evidence of the witchcraft. They didn't find any. They did find and seize over 3,000 pounds. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot nowadays, but 3,000 pounds in 1303 is roughly $4.7 million in 2021 money. That's a lot of cash to have in your house. Now, her husband was a moneylender, and banks weren't commonplace, so it makes a little bit of sense. But the authorities charged Alice and LeBlanc with murder. Now, during that trial, they were found not guilty, and the money was returned. But having £3,000 in cash made them one of the richest families in Kilkenny, which gave the citizens another reason to dislike Alice. LeBlanc made a decision in 1307 that helped fuel the rumors surrounding Alice. He decided to leave his entire fortune to Alice's son, William, ignoring his children from his first marriage. LeBlanc was dead within 2 years of that decision, and William Outlaw inherited everything. Now, it's said LeBlanc died of drunkenness, but his other children claimed that he never drank. With the death of LeBlanc, more rumors and accusations were leveled at Alice. LeBlanc's children accused Alice of murdering their father, but they never filed any formal charges. Despite being somewhat of a black widow, Alice remarried in 1309 to an aristocrat named Richard Lavale. Now, everything seemed to settle down after the marriage. People still disliked Alice, but the rumors began to disappear. Until, in 1316, Lavale died of an unknown disease. This brought Alice back into the spotlight, and the rumors of witchcraft and black magic were also back. Lavale left his entire wealth to Alice, leaving nothing to his only son, Richard. Richard froze the inheritance from Alice as long as he could, stating in court documents that Alice, being a woman, was unfit to manage the large inheritance, and as the biological son, he should get the inheritance. Alice went to court and won. She was awarded the entire inheritance, and the son Richard received nothing. This did not sit well with Richard or the population, who was already suspicious of Alice. It gave them more reasons to dislike her. Alice, not ready to be single, married again. Now, why anyone would want to marry her in the first place after 3 husbands died from unknown causes is a mystery. Was she so charming and beautiful and rich, probably, that no man could resist her? Maybe she used witchcraft to beguile them. Whatever the reasons, in 1320, Alice married John Lepore, a powerful knight who came from an influential family in Kilkenny. Lepore's brother was the mayor of Kilkenny. Now, Lepore had children from a previous marriage, but unlike the other husbands, he didn't abandon his children when he married Alice. They remained a part of his life. 3 years into their marriage, Lepore started getting sick. He had a hard time walking, losing his balance. His skin, teeth, and fingernails turned yellow. His hair turned gray and was falling out in clumps. Yellow skin and nails sounds like jaundice caused by liver failure. I don't think that makes your hair fall out. The doctors in medieval Ireland had no idea what was wrong with him. Lepore confided in his children, telling them he believed Alice was poisoning him. His children contacted Richard, the son of Lavale, and the children of LeBlanc. All of them said their fathers died of similar symptoms. Lepore also confided in the church, telling the friars he thought his wife was poisoning him. The friars in turn spoke to the Bishop of Ossory, Richard Ledred. In 1324, less than a year after Lepore started getting sick, he died at the age of 45. No known cause of death. In another strange twist, Lepore left his inheritance to Alice also. Even though he remained in contact with his children, he left them nothing. That was the final straw. Alice's stepchildren banded together, went to the church, and accused Alice of using magic against their fathers. Their intent wasn't to get her burned at the stake for witchcraft. They wanted the inheritance money from their fathers. Bishop Ledred heard the charges, and he transformed it into a bigger, widespread witch hunt. Bishop Ledred arrived in Kilkenny in 1317, and before arriving in Ireland, he spent a great deal of time in Avignon at the seat of the papacy. Ledred was heavily influenced by the new pope, John the 22nd. Both men believed there was an ongoing war between God and Satan, which was taking place across the land. Pope John believed in witchcraft and sorcery. He thought forces of evil were constantly trying to kill him. In his papal bull, Super Ilius Specula, he identified heresy and sorcery, writing, "They sacrifice to demons and adore them, making or causing to be made images or rings with which they draw the evil spirits to their magical art, obtain responses from them, and demand their help in perform of their evil designs." The punishment was burning at the stake and confiscation of property. Ledred was heavily influenced by those beliefs. When Ledred arrived in Kilkenny in 1317, his mission was to eradicate heresy from the island. While he was in Kilkenny, he witnessed the decline in religious faith and the rise of secularism. Ledred believed it was a bigger problem than one woman and used the charges against Alice to stop the slide into sin and restore the Christian faith. Ledred believed Alice was guilty of using more than magic. He thought she was a full-blown witch and the leader of a coven based in Kilkenny. The devil was at work in Kilkenny, and Ledred was determined to stop the forces of evil. His first order of business was getting Alice and her son, William Outlaw, arrested for witchcraft. Now, the process isn't as easy as it might seem. There are certain protocols the church followed for these cases. And the first step is excommunication. Then there's a 40-day waiting period before the accused can be arrested. Ledred was impatient and wanted to get things started, and he didn't want to follow the standard protocols. So instead, he wrote to the Chancellor of Ireland asking for permission to arrest Alice and her son immediately. The Chancellor refused the request, told Ledred the two were innocent of the charges, and instructed him to leave them alone. Now, that's an interesting turn of events. How could the Chancellor know they were innocent, and why would he tell Ledred to back off? In 1324, the Chancellor of Ireland is still Roger Outlaw, Alice's brother-in-law from her first marriage. Ledred was undeterred by the Chancellor and continued with his hunt. He excommunicated Alice and William and waited the 40 days to move forward. After the 40 days, Ledred called for the arrest of Alice and her son William. But Alice had already fled to Dublin and couldn't be found. William called on his friend Arnold Lepore to stop the proceedings. Arnold Lepore is the brother of John, Alice's last husband. He and William became good friends over the years, and Arnold was there to help him. Lepore directed Ledred to drop the charges, but Ledred refused, and Lepore turned the tables on him and had him arrested instead. Arresting Bishop Ledred was a major move. In the Middle Ages, arresting the clergy was illegal. They only answered to the Pope. Even in criminal cases, it was a sin forgivable only by the Pope to touch or arrest the clergy. That didn't seem to bother Lepore one bit. He threw Ledred into prison. Now, while in prison, Bishop Ledred played the only hand he could. He put the Diocese of Ossory under interdict. Essentially, he put the clergy on strike. No Mass, no communion, no baptism, no last rites, no marriages, no burials, nothing. And that is a horrifying prospect in 1324. No baptism meant you couldn't get into heaven when you died. The same with not receiving last rites. People were worried about their souls, their children's souls, in the afterlife. Add to the fact, Ledred had identified and accused the town of harboring a coven of witches. Evil was everywhere, and people needed the church. The city was on the verge of a revolt, and the constable was threatening to resign unless Ledred was freed. Lepore severely underestimated the power of Bishop Ledred. After 18 days, with the city on the brink, Lepore released him from prison. Instead of just walking out and going back to the cathedral, Ledred, dressed in his full bishop vestments, left the prison, walked through town to the cathedral, and he was followed by the friars and a growing procession of townspeople. Everyone was glad to see him free and the interdict lifted. Everyone except Alice, William, and their associates, I suppose. Now, upon his release, Ledred continued his efforts to imprison Alice and William. He also extended the scope of his investigation. See, he believed Alice was the head of a coven, a group of witches, and charged 11 other people associated with Alice with witchcraft and heresy, including her servant, Petronilla of Mead. Ledred kept a chronicle of the events, and in it he wrote the following charges for Alice and her coven. The first, they had denied the faith of Christ absolutely for a year or a month. The second is they offered and sacrificed to demons living animals which they dismembered and then distributed at crossroads to a certain evil spirit of low rank named the Son of Art. They sought by their sorcery advice and responses from demons. Now that kind of sounds like the exact writing in the papal bull by Pope John the 22nd. The fourth charge, in their nightly meetings, they blasphemously imitated the power of the church with lighted candles, even against their own husbands, from the sole of their foot to the crown of their head, naming each part expressly, and then concluded by extinguishing the candles. The fifth charge, in order to arouse feelings of love or hatred, or to inflict death or disease on the bodies of the faithful, they made use of powders, ointments, and candles of fat, which were compounded as follows. They took the entrails of cocks sacrificed to demons, certain horrible worms, various unspecified herbs, dead men's nails, the hair, brains, and shreds of the cremaments of boys who were buried unbaptized, with other abominations, all of which they cooked with various incantations over a fire of oak logs in a vessel made out of the skull of a decapitated thief. Now that is a pretty detailed description of how they made their potions. The sixth charge was having killed her husbands by sorcery. The seventh, the said dame had a certain demon, an incubus named Son of Art, or Robin Son of Art, who had carnal knowledge of her, and from whom she admitted that she had received all her wealth. This incubus made an appearance under various forms, sometimes as a cat, or as a hairy black dog, or as the likeness of a man, accompanied by two others who were larger and taller than he, and whom one carried an iron rod. Those are pretty serious and disturbing charges. Some of those charges resemble the charges against the Knight Templars in 1308, denying Christ, animal sacrifices, and consorting with the devil. Ledred posted notices all over town directing Alice and William to appear before him and answer the charges. The powerful allies of Alice and William were at work too. Ledred was summoned to Dublin by the Archbishop to explain why he called for an interdict. Now, Ledred refused the summons and didn't leave Kilkenny. He was then summoned by Roger Outlaw, the Chancellor, to appear before Parliament, a request he couldn't refuse. Now, the trip to Dublin was dangerous and would be a perfect opportunity for Arnold Lepore to assassinate Ledred and blame it on bandits. Ledred was fully aware of the dangers. Now, a contemporary source reads, an ambush was secretly being organized against the bishop. Armed men were to attack him at a certain bridge on the road, which he must travel if he must go to the king's highway. Because of this, the bishop had to start his journey with very few companions and traveling great peril through deserted mountainous places which had no roads. Ledred survived the journey and arrived in Dublin in one piece, which must have been a disappointment to Lepore and William Outlaw. Ledred and Lepore presented their cases before the court in Dublin, and it was here Ledred found a powerful ally, John Darcy, the Lord Justicer of Ireland. Ledred presented all the facts as he believed them and convinced Darcy of the merits of the case. John Darcy held rank over all the other men. Even the Chancellor, Roger Outlaw, couldn't overrule him. Darcy allowed Ledred to move forward with the charges and promised to visit Kilkenny and follow up on the investigation. Ledred returned to Kilkenny, arrested William Outlaw and the Coven of Witches. Ledred accused a total of 12 people and had them arrested. They included Alice, her son William Outlaw, Robert of Bristol, John Galrusson, Ellen Galrusson, Cissy Galrusson, William Payne de Boyle, Petronilla of Mead and her daughter Sarah, Alice Carpenter, Anoda Lang, and Eva de Brownstow. Alice Kyteler wasn't arrested. She was warned in advance, most likely by her brother-in-law Roger Outlaw, and she fled. Alice took Sarah with her, Petronilla's daughter, and they headed to England. Of the accused, 8 were women and 4 were men. Now, in the Middle Ages, witches and witchcraft was usually aimed at women. Few men were charged with witchcraft. Darcy followed up and arrived in Kilkenny shortly after the arrest, and it strengthened Ledred's case. Any resistance to Ledred was gone once Darcy arrived. Alice and Sarah were declared lapsed heretics, a charge punishable by death. They would never be able to return to Kilkenny. Ledred confiscated all her property and burned her evil possessions of witchcraft. Now, the items Ledred claimed to have found and burned include potions, ointments, dead men's fingernails and hair, and the fat of murdered babies. William Outlaw, Alice's son, confessed to all the charges against him: heresy, perjury, murder, and he was imprisoned in Kilkenny Castle. William still had powerful allies, and they pressured Ledred to give William penance. Ledred agreed, as did Darcy. William recanted his sins and was released from prison. He was ordered to hear 3 masses a day for a year, feed the poor, and cover the roof of St. Canice's Cathedral in lead. The others didn't get off so easy. They were tortured. And under torture, they confessed to some or all of the charges. Petronilla was publicly whipped and tortured on 3 November 1324. She confessed to all the sins, saying Alice had denied Christ. They sacrificed animals together to the devil. They made potions in the skulls of dead men and had sex with an incubus, a demon in the form of a man. She confessed to all the charges laid out by Ledred, as if he were guiding her through the confession. I'm sure he was asking leading questions like, have you stopped sacrificing animals? Answering yes or no condemns you to guilt. Being whipped and tortured, Petronilla would probably confess to anything to make it stop. In his writings, Ledred recorded Petronilla's confessions. He wrote, amongst other things, she said that she, with her said mistress, often made a sentence of excommunication against her own husband with wax candles lighted and repeated as the rules required. And though she was indeed herself an adept in these accursed arts of theirs, she said she was nothing in comparison to her mistress, from whom she had learned all things and many more. And indeed, in all the realm of the King of England, there were none more skilled or equal to her in this art. On one of these occasions, by the crossroads outside the city, she had made an offering of 3 cocks to a certain demon who she called Robert, son of Art, from the depths of the underworld. She had poured out the cock's blood, cut the animals into pieces, and mixed the intestines with spiders and other black worms like scorpions, with a herb called milfoil, as well as with other herbs and horrible worms. She had boiled this mixture in a pot with the brains and clothes of a boy who had died without baptism and with the head of a robber who had been decapitated. Petronilla said she had several times, at Alice's instigation, once in her presence, consulted demons and received answers. She had consented to a pact whereby she would be a medium between Alice and the said Robert, her friend. In public, she said that with her own eyes she had seen the aforesaid demon as 3 shapes, in the form of 3 men, each carrying an iron rod in the hand. This apparition happened by daylight before the said Dame Alice, and while Petronilla herself was watching, the apparition had intercourse with Alice. After this disgraceful act, with her own hand, she, Alice, wiped clean the disgusting place with sheets from her own bed. That is a detailed confession, all while being tortured and whipped. After Petronilla's confession, Ledred, in an act of mercy perhaps, offered her penance if she would recant all her sins.
Suspensus est de divinis, id est de officio sacerdotali, et excommunicatus ex unione fidelium, sine vera penitentia.
It is not heresy, and I will not recant.
In an interesting twist, Petronilla refused to recant any of the sins. Why would she refuse? Did she not believe she was guilty? Did she think she was going to be let go? Or was she really a witch and thought her demon friend, Robert, the son of Art, would come and save her? Whatever her reasons, Ledred had no choice in the sentencing. It was burned at the stake. On 3 November 1324, Petronilla of Mead was burned at the stake for crimes of witchcraft, the first person in all of Ireland to receive the punishment. Between her dying screams of pain and agony, Petronilla called out to Alice to come and rescue her. The Kilkenny Franciscan chronicler John Klein recorded her death, writing, Petronilla of Mead was condemned for sorcery, lot-taking and offering sacrifices to demons, consigned to the flames and burned. Moreover, before her, even in olden days, it was neither seen nor heard of that anyone suffered the death penalty for heresy in Ireland. The fate of the other accused witches is unknown. They may have been burned at the stake too, or perhaps offered penance. No records exist of their fate. As for William Outlaw, he didn't adhere to his penance and was arrested again in 1325. Before his release, he agreed to carry out his original sentence and also make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. William did cover the roof of St. Canice's Cathedral in lead, but in 1332 the roof collapsed from the weight. Now, it's rumored that William intentionally added extra lead to make it collapse as revenge. The years following the trial, Ledred carried out a grudge against the men who stood in his way, specifically Arnold Lepore and Roger Outlaw. In 1328, Ledred accused Lepore of heresy and had him arrested. Lepore died in prison before his trial. Ledred turned his attention to Roger Outlaw and accused him of heresy as well. Now, Roger Outlaw was the Chancellor of Ireland and the Prior of the Knights Hospitaller in Dublin. Roger Outlaw was a powerful man with powerful friends. The accusation wasn't received well, and in 1329, Ledred dropped the charges and left Ireland in fear of his life. Ledred returned to Kilkenny in the 1350s, and he lived to be over 90 years old. He died of natural causes in the 1360s. As for Alice Kyteler, she was never heard from again. After escaping Ireland, it's believed she went to England. Her name doesn't appear in any records after she left Ireland. Now, William Butler Yeats immortalized her in his poem 1919. He wrote,
"But now wind drops, dust settles. Thereupon there lurches past his great eyes without thought, under the shadow of stupid straw-pale locks, that insolent fiend Robert Artisan, to whom the lovelorn lady Kyteler brought bronzed peacock feathers, red combs of her cocks."
Now, if you find yourself in Kilkenny, you can visit Alice Kyteler's Inn. It's simply called Kyteler's Inn, and it's in the city center on St. Kieran Street. It's said the ghost of Alice Kyteler roams the inn. Now, when you visit Kyteler's Inn, grab a pint and watch for the ghost of Alice Kyteler, the Witch of Kilkenny, to appear. That's going to end our look at Alice Kyteler, the Witch of Kilkenny, and the first witchcraft trial in Ireland. Now, have you been to Kilkenny or to Kyteler's Inn? Have you seen the ghost of Alice Kyteler? If you want more ghost stories from Ireland, check out the book, The Ghosts of Ireland, a collection of ghost stories from across the island. Now, you can get your free copy of it on Audible by going to medievalarchives.com/free book. You have to sign up for a free trial, but you can cancel at any time, and the book you pick is yours to keep forever. You don't have to pick The Ghost of Ireland. Any book you decide to take is yours. Now, I use Audible all the time. Even my kids use it. It's a great service. So check out The Ghosts of Ireland or any book at medievalarchives.com/free book. All these show notes and the bibliography is going to be available at medievalarchives.com/86. Before we go, I need to ask you one favor. If you're enjoying the podcast, tell your friends about it. And if you're listening on your smartphone, you can send them a link right now. It's the easiest way to support the show. If you're getting value from the show, you can join the others mentioned at the beginning of the episode with a financial donation. It keeps the show and the website ad-free and full of great content. There's some great donation options. You have the 1066 for William the Conqueror fans, or the 1485 to commemorate the Battle of Bosworth, or you can contribute any amount you like. Just head over to medievalarchives.com/donate and make your donation. Everything is appreciated. Thanks for your time and thanks for your continued support. That's going to wrap it up for this week. So thanks again for subscribing and listening to the Medieval Archives podcast, illuminating the dark ages for the digital world.
The Medieval Archives podcast, the podcast for medieval news, history, and entertainment. If you have any questions, comments, topic ideas, or would like to sponsor an episode, send an email to podcast@medievalarchives.com. Audio files are welcome. You can call in your question or comment to 720-722-1066. International and long-distance charges may apply. Visit Medieval Archives at medievalarchives.com. You can also follow Medieval Archives on Facebook at facebook.com/Medieval Archives and on Twitter at twitter.com/Medieval Archive for all your daily medieval updates.